Hi there, and welcome to Queer Armor. Today we are doing the second bullet episode, Why Are Bullets? Where we're going to go into more information and also some more common misinformation. But first off, big shout out to my Patreon supporters. Really appreciate the fuck out of y'all. Couldn't do this without you. Now let's get into it. So, first of all, I want to talk about muzzle devices. And there's one muzzle device that most people know. Suppressors. You've seen it in movies as the silent assassin tool, and I'm here to tell you that no, every movie interpretation of suppressors has basically been wrong and lying to you. Okay, imagine shooting a firearm normally. When you pull the trigger and the bullet leaves the muzzle, there's gas that is following behind that bullet that is part of where the recoil comes from. Muzzle devices are simply devices at the muzzle that use that gas to help you control the gun. There are two common ones to help control recoil, combined here into the compensator muzzle brake. You know it's a compensator because it has gas coming out the top helping to compensate for the muzzle climb, while a muzzle brake acts as a brake on the rearward force on the gun by sending gas rearward. Importantly, a suppressor does not reduce the amount of gas. It just increases the amount of time it takes for the gas to expand, which to our ears reduces some of the volume, but importantly, it does not get it to the mouse movie quiet. It's more of a safety device. A nifty fact about suppressors, it's also a useful thing you can get about ammo. Some suppressors can be shared across different handguns, weapons, and different ammo types if you know the different types of ammo. For example, a suppressor for an AR can frequently be shared with a 5.7 pistol because both of those are a .22 caliber bullet, and realistically, if it can contain 5.56, it can contain 5.7. And to quote all of my favorite internet shitposters, many such cases. There is a wide variety of cases of cartridges being completely different sizes, but using similar width or even the same bullets in some cases. The following are all 9mm, 9 Parabellum, 9 Makarov, 9 Browning Court, which by the way, I want to stop on for a second, because this is a round that has a pile of other subnames, and it is just really, really funny to me that it has names like a fucking SoundCloud rapper that is trying too hard. Yo, I'm 9 Browning. I'm also called 9 Quarto, 9 Kurz, 380 ACP, not to be confused with 38 ACP, 380 Auto, 9 Short. Like, one of those is so close to being Little 9, it's not even funny. Anyway, we've also got 38 Special, 357 Magnum, and 357 SIG. Now, it's absolutely true that when most people say 9mm, they mean 9mm Parabellum, and that has become colloquial shorthand, but it is worth remembering all of these bullets are 9mm bullets. In a similar vein, 40 Smith & Wesson is actually a truncated version of 10mm, 10mm being its own can of worms that we'll get into in part 3. Now, in the last video, I touched on a couple different types of defensive ammunition, and I specifically didn't touch on these. Extreme penetrators, and there's a reason for that. I do not think they really make sense in most platforms, although many people will make them, and the bullets do tumble after impact, which should increase damage capacity. However, one of the rules of gun safety is know what you're shooting at and what's behind it. And if you're intending for a bullet to tumble, you are setting yourself up for overpenetration issues and basic safety problems. The only time this ammunition makes any sort of sense is for an ammunition type I don't recommend carrying for defense, 32 ACP. And the reason I don't recommend 32 ACP for defense is because the hollow point ammunition for it doesn't expand consistently. Now, 380 ACP, you need to pick the right bullet. Some of them will have expansion problems. There is no 32 ACP that will reliably expand. It's too weak. For this, it is recommended that you get something that will do damage regardless of if it expands, hence the excavators. Although, again, I do not recommend 32 ACP for defense. Speaking of terrifyingly bad ideas, RIP ammunition, or radically invasive projectiles. For home defense, no. There's a number of reasons why these are terrible. They don't like feeding consistently. They are machined rather than a smooth surface, which on the one hand is better than like a truly rough surface, but it is still a not smooth surface that you will hope goes into the chamber properly. And that's before you get into how they are great at expansion most of the time. They also have a weird overpenetration issue where sometimes machined pieces of bullet like to go flying from the thing that you shot at randomly. They break apart too nicely. And all of that is before thinking about an overeager DA shitting on you for having RIP ammunition. Moving on to more pleasant matters, revolvers also have a concept that should really be understood if you're going to be shooting them in the near future. I kind of don't recommend revolvers for defense at this point. There aren't really any situations where they make sense, but it's still important if you're going to be around them and shooting them. It's worth knowing about something called the cylinder gap. And the easy way to think about the safety with the revolver cylinder gap is to think back to last video. Guns are controlled bombs. See, the explosive part is all the way at the back by your finger. And when a revolver is going off, bullet is pushed into the barrel by the gas, and then immediately afterwards the gas starts escaping. But unlike a semi-automatic, the gas is going to leave anywhere, including from that gap. So make sure you are keeping your fingers well clear of it. Now, there is a type of ammunition that is almost exclusively used in revolvers. There is a brief period of time where it was considered with semi-autos, and we're going to go into why that was such a bad idea in a second. See, this is the ball full metal jacket that you are used to as target ammunition. However, for revolvers, target ammunition is often Wad Cutter. It was originally designed as a target round, and that is what most shooters use it for, as the hole that it generates in a target tends to be cleaner. And while it has mostly been used as target ammunition, there was a period where, because militaries were stuck using ball ammunition, Wad Cutter was in fact considered. And Wad Cutter actually does do better damage versus ball in a defensive context. You see, there's many ways that you can describe what human beings are made out of. We're made out of frequencies, we're made out of cells, we're made out of atoms. One of the descriptions that's not completely inaccurate is we're mostly made out of water. This means that the medium ends up acting kind of like a wave, pushing out of the way of the bullet and then pushing back into shape. It's making a smaller hole than even the caliber that was shot through it. Whereas Wad Cutter, or semi-Wad Cutter as shown here, tends to create these harsh cutting lines as it's pushing through. Now, to be clear, it's still not as effective as a hollow point, which is far and away the best option for stopping a threat with a single round of pistol ammunition. But if you are limited to just the ball options, then Wad Cutters suddenly make a little bit more sense-ish. They still have a big problem. The Special Forces units that were considering using Wad Cutters would have been using 1911s, so it's easier to demonstrate the problem on a 1911. This is a rudimentary diagram of a 1911, but it shows you the basic working mechanisms, and you can see how the ball part of the ball ammunition guides the bullet up the feed ramp. But if we were to change the ammunition to, say, Wad Cutters, then there's a significant chance when the gun cycles, it's going to jam on that feed ramp. It being a box instead of a smooth ball means it's going to catch things that ball wouldn't. This also ties into a really fun ammo nerd Easter egg in the Blacklist.
But hey, lucky you. I normally carried Hydroshock hollow points. I was trying out a new series of centerfire Wad Cutters that week. It's probably the only thing that saved your life, really. Me switching ammo.
That water analogy also brings up another important point. These are two .22 bullets. One of these is .22 long rifle, and the other is the .22 bullet found in 5.56. However, the .22 LR is very slow. When that hits a soft target, it makes a temporary cavity, that little bump that follows behind it, but it's not what's called a permanent cavity. The liquid is essentially pushing itself back into its shape because it didn't rip. Bullets moving faster than 2,400 feet per second hit so fast that they push liquid out of the way, which then rips, which is why barrel length matters so much for fast-moving rounds. And speaking of .22 long rifle, rimfire ammunition has a funny quirk in how it's manufactured. Bullets have a bullet, a case, the gunpowder, and primer. A rimfire cartridge has all of the same basic components, except rimfire doesn't have a button primer. It has priming compound inside a rim that gets pinched. When rimfire ammunition is manufactured, priming compound is dropped into the base, and then the case is spun to put the priming compound into the rim. When done effectively, it should look like this, but frequently it'll look like this, or like this, or like this. The whole point is that the priming compound is being spun, but it might not evenly get everywhere, and that's why a certain percentage of rimfire ammunition is just not going to go off when you shoot it. It's just a factor of how the ammunition works. That is going to be it for me, though. I hope you learned something from that. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters here. If you want to support me on Patreon, patreon.com/queerarmor. But that's going to be it for me. Stay dangerous, y'all. Keep each other safe. And remember, moral doesn't mean legal, and Stonewall was a riot. Peace.